I'm sorry, I say, after I made sure that the stat device still works. I shouldn't have interrupted. You were about to tell me how your father got captured. Yes, Layla writes. You see, the thing is that even if hunts for outcasts were prohibited, that did not mean the old grudges had been forgotten. The Lassetti who worked with my father at the beacon had been meaning to punish him for a long time, but they couldn't do it openly. So what they did eventually was that they forged some documents stating that my father had a huge debt to the owner of our house. They got the owner on their side, and he lied that we never paid our rents and we moved into his house. We didn't have any witness on our side, while the Lassetti had all the witnesses and the fake documents that they needed to prove my father's guilt. Given that he couldn't pay his debt, father was sold as a slave to one of the nobles of Thelius. I escaped before they could sell me too. I've been living on the outskirts of the city for months, trying to find a way to free him, but it wasn't until the beginning of the tournament that I got a chance to actually do it. Lila stops talking, and I suddenly realized that I've been asking her all these questions, but I've never even bothered to tell her that I'm currently traveling with one of her old colleagues from the beacon. Should I tell her though? Kate never told me anything about Layla before. She's only mentioned Diane. Was this because she thought Layla was dead, or because she considered her an enemy for being a Lassetti? I'm not sure if I'd want to get this girl's hope up in case Kate never wants to see her. So if it's just about Kate's opinion, I don't really care, to be honest with you, considering I wanna see the fancy stuff. It's not like, I mean, if I don't tell her about Kate, eventually she's going to meet her anyway, if she's going to be sticking around, considering she looks like she's going to be a character in this. So tell her about Kate, sure. She realized I've never told you why I knew about the Beacon of Hope. I say, do you remember meeting a girl named Kate while you were at the orphanage? Layla nods. I remember her. Layla writes, she always used to hang out with the Elementalist siblings that later became part of the Lassetti elite task force. I heard that she was sent off to die in a distant jungle along with all the other orphans after the beacon got shut down. Well, your information isn't wrong, but I think it might have led you to some wrong conclusion. I tell her, Kate is not dead, she survived. She's the one who told me about the Beacon of Hope. She survived? Layla writes as her face suddenly lights up with joy. Yeah, say, I met Kate here at the tournament and I'm currently traveling with her. Would you like to see her? The joyful expression on Layla's face slowly gets replaced with one of sadness as she looks away from me. I don't think she'd want to see me. Layla writes, I was being kept in a separate spell from others at the orphanage and we never got to talk much. Besides, I don't think she'd want to meet a Lassetti like me. After all, she's been through at the hands of Lassetti from the orphanage. Hey, you can't know until you ask her. I say, I'm a Lassetti too and I'm still friends with her, remember? Layla does not answer. She keeps looking away from me as before. Alright then, I say, as I get up from the ground. It's settled. As soon as we get out of here, I'll call her on the transceiver and we'll arrange a meeting between the two of you. Let's get going. Your clothes should be dried up. It should have dried up by now. That fast? Fucking hell. Layla nods hesitantly as she grabs my hand. I help her up. We leave the fire behind. Do we leave it burning? And we head towards the tunnels beyond the cabins. For the next 20 minutes or so, we walk in silence through the underground cavern using a long stick that I'd gotten from the cabin to test the ground for traps. In the areas that were completely dark, we had to rely on our stat devices to light the way. They have torches in them now. Light the way before us, but luckily the growing blue crystals that we had seen before were also scattered throughout these tunnels, embedded into the walls, so we didn't have to worry about the lighting most of the time. As we advanced through the caverns, we eventually reached a tunnel that had prison cells on either of the sides, with doors made of rusted iron grating. Inside the cells, what we saw is a prisoner with creatures of all sizes and shapes and sizes that were either growling at us menacingly or studying us carefully, waiting to see what we'd do. There were dire wolves, gargoyles, giant rat, harpies, griffins, saber-toothed tigers, all kept in different cells of the same tunnels, and something tells me that this is only a small fraction of the vast array of creatures that the arena's owner has at his disposal. They're not guarded, Layla writes. I think that they weren't expecting intruders coming from this direction. This means that there is still a place we can leave this. There's still a chance we can leave this place undetected. How? We just go back up the elevator thingy? Layla takes a rock from the ground and she starts to toss it into the air and then catch it repeatedly while she looks towards one of the cells. Suddenly realizes that the rock she is throwing in the air is just the right size to fit through the iron grating. With her max strength, she could probably easily smash one of those tigers' heads in with a single throw. Now the question, Layla writes, should we kill all these creatures while we have the chance, or should we just concentrate on finding a way out of the place? Well, these are not the creatures we'll be fighting. If we fight these in the arena tomorrow, we can easily kill them, but I think that would just make too much noise, so leave the creatures alone. We should probably focus on killing the Minotaur if we find it. or the scorpions or whatever. So leave the creatures alone and concentrate on finding a way out. Forget the creatures, I say. Finding a way out here is more important. Alright, Layla writes as she drops the stone from her hand. That's good going then. Keep that stone. You can throw it at a guard or something. We make our way to the end of the tunnel. We both ready our daggers, or we have daggers, while we advance into the next area of the cabin. As we now enter a much narrower tunnel, we can't help but notice that there are two wooden chairs near the entrance, which seem to have knocked over in a hurry, and that there was a bowl of fresh stew lying on the ground untouched. It looks like we have already been spotted, I say. Yes, Layla writes. They're probably waiting to ambush us at the end of the tunnel. Get ready. Oh jeez. Just as Layla anticipated, the moment we get out of the tunnel, we were greeted by 6 sharp lances pointing in our direction. The lances were being wielded not by humans, but by hideous monsters that were the size of humans, only with grey skin, long pointy noses, large fangs, and the appearance of savages. The monsters that we were facing were trolls. Trolls are not as smart as goblins, but they're definitely smarter than ogres, and what is particularly dangerous about them is that the fact they have incredible regenerative powers. As they cut their head clean off or use fire to kill them, they can even grow back a limb if you give them enough time. These are not the kind of enemies that I was hoping to meet here. Throw down your weapons, one of the trolls say in common language, but was probably the most broken accent that I've ever heard in my life. They then exchange a look, but we hold on to our weapons while the troll seems to be growing impatient. Throw down your weapons now or you will be executed on the spot, the troll says. Before we get the chance to answer the troll, I suddenly hear Flower's voice coming from behind the monster. Somehow I had a feeling that you would be the source of all this commotion. The voice says, Flower? I ask. As soon as I stop talking, a water whip comes out of nowhere and beheads all 6 trolls in a single swipe. As the troll bodies fall to the ground, I get a good look at Flower and see that her eyes are bright blue. Flower is asleep, Eluna says. She gives Layla a quick glance before she turns her gaze back to me. As if we made a new friend, Eluna says. Yes, I say. I meet her in the holding cells below the arena. She's a fellow gladiator from my division. My name's Layla, she writes as she extends her hand towards Eluna. Pleased to meet you. Charmed, Eluna says in a usual disinterested tone without showing any surprise at the girl's peculiar way of talking. She then turns away, leaving Layla with her hands extended in the air while she heads back towards the way she came. What are you waiting for? Eluna says. When she sees that we're not following. Follow me. Wait, where are we going? I ask her. There's a friend of mine who would like to meet you, Eluna says. I think you'll find that his purpose in coming here is rather similar to yours. What friend? I say. What do you mean by similar? I don't get it. What did you come here to do? Why, Barry? I thought that much would be obvious by now, Eluna says. We came here to sabotage the arena. I see. How very convenient. How very convenient. Eluna's friend was waiting for us in an area not far from the one where the trolls ambushed us. He was leaning on a dead staff with several dead trolls lying on the ground around him. He was studying us closely as we approached him. His appearance shocked me at first, but when I saw Eluna nod to him, I immediately realized that he was the one that she brought us to meet. Eluna's friend was no taller than 4 feet, with fangs instead of teeth, crooked nose, pointy ears, and green skin. A goblin? I must admit that I wasn't expecting this friend of hers to be a goblin, but given the fact that Eluna is a banshee, I suppose that I shouldn't find it too strange, as she'd have a few monster allies in Varathia. I heard before the goblins are supposed to be really smart compared to other monsters, but this goblin in particular has a very shrewd look about him. His cunning grin reminds me of those slimy merchants that are constantly looking for a new way to rip you off, and he's not trying to hide it either. His high intelligence is likely a result of his old age, which I've heard is not an easy feat to achieve if you live your life as a goblin. Most goblins die young, either because of starvation or because they get killed while trying to steal food in order to survive. While they're considered monsters by other civilized races, they are forced to live from scraps and often need to resort to illegal activities such as smuggling and stealing in order to get the goods they require. His goblin skin is all wrinkly, which means that he must have lived well over 200 years, given how slowly goblins are known to age compared to humans. Living this long as a goblin, especially in a place like Varathia, is definitely not something you can achieve through sheer luck. Is this the Lasetti you were talking about, Eluna? The goblin says in the common tongue as he looks towards me. Yes, Eluna says. And the Lasetti girl? The goblin asks. Is she from your group too? The Lasetti girl is apparently a teammate from his arena division, Eluna says. I only just met her myself. The goblin says. If she is a gladiator, then I suppose I can safely assume that she has nothing to do with Meredith's group. But I'll admit that I was a little worried at first. Hold on, I say. You're telling me that you can both tell she's a Lasetti just from one glance? If your magical sense is sharp enough, you can tell the difference between a human and a Lasetti with minimal effort, as long as you study their aura closely. It says, however, when you have dealt with as many Lasetti as we have, it becomes second nature. Are you sure that these two can be trusted? Goblin asks Luna. Luna gives me one look before she answers the goblin. Berry is trustworthy enough, she says. I don't know much about the girl, but I don't see any reason why she wouldn't agree with what we are planning to do. She's a gladiator after all. Wait a minute, I tell Luna. We're talking about trust, then the same question goes for him as well. How much are you willing to trust this guy? To me, he looks just as untrustworthy as a swindler who tried to trick you into playing a rigged game of cards on the main street of Bagelberry.